Hello everyone, I know it's been a little while since a video. I've been a little bit more busy the last few weeks, but I'm going to try to get a lot of these matches I have recorded out as videos, and let's start with this match against Pinchas the Crab, who has a pretty interesting box. So Pinchas the Crab runs a 4-tank box, so I decide to go for the first ban Yulia. As always, Yulia very good at breaking slow teams like mine, so I need to get rid of her very quickly, especially against a 4-tank box that can pick a non-tank first. So he goes for a first pick Rozen. So I'm gonna guess that Pinchas the Crab was one of those players that got so tired of dealing with debuff boxes that he just started first picking Rozen. The interesting thing is that he bans my Leiden first, so that probably means he's also looking to play a slower game. Because Leiden's pretty good in slower games, you know, he can lock tank and pull people around. I respond by also banning his Leiden plus his Juggler. I also don't want to be dealing with any of his guard lock characters like that. One thing that kind of surprised me is that he decided to pick Listell as his tank instead of Landius. Listell does open up your entire box since she can buff everyone, but of course Listell lacks a magic guard, so to me it made sense to just start picking magic DPS here. I picked both Yulia and Chris, who can ignore Listell's guard, but of course the team I'm drafting has a real problem with buffs, so I'm going to need to make Chris the buffer here. One thing that I just completely forgot during pick ban was that Listell can guard magic, so that's actually what he goes for here. He has a magic guard Listell. And since I also picked Rozenciel, it's not like Listell would be doing any sort of debuffs here. The fact that Rozen exists is one of the reasons that we don't see Listell around as much anymore. So he brings Lava Titans on his Listell to tank, which is a decent choice, but I do think that Stone Colossus or even the Treants would have been a better choice here. Although of course it's possible he doesn't have those trained. Lava Titan doesn't offer him a whole lot here. Like I said, I also picked Rozen, so it's not like the fixed damage tick from Lava Titan is going to be hitting anybody. Stone Colossus are a lot better at tanking, especially if you end up at low HP. And Treants of course are nice at 100% life, and they even counter harder, which is nice for Listell running a magic tank build because when she has her guard up, she actually has 2-range counter versus magic attacks, which is something that's pretty easy to forget about her guard skill because people don't bring it too often. I myself brought heavy infantry on my Chris to try to hit his Listell harder, but Listell is going to be here taking all the magic attacks. And remember, Listell is not scared of class advantage because her talent removes all class effects, so I don't get to have the infantry advantage over her Lancer troops. So you can see what Pinchas is trying to do here. He is taking the middle immediately. He has a pretty stall heavy team like mine, and he's even going to try to block me off in this little space, which works pretty well in the sky map. Now luckily for me, his L1 actually fails to remove my 2-range guard in my Landius, so that allows me to not get completely boxed in, and still try to keep a number of slots open for myself so that I can attack him. So this match being what it is, pretty much comes down to a stat check, whether or not my 2 DPS in Yulia and Chris are strong enough to break his Listell. If I can break his Listell, then I should be able to win. So I picked Almeida over Matthew here for a number of reasons. I don't have a lot of confidence in my Rozenciel's ability to keep a tank alive. She does tend to be weaker than other healers for single target heals, and even though his only big DPS here is Elwyn, I still prefer to play a little bit safe and have more heals to make sure Landius can survive. The other thing I could do with Almeida here is to bring her 2 Dispel spells, which are the Holy Dragon Breath and Ultimate Quip. What this does is put pressure on Pinchas to try to refresh his buff from Sophia. Almeida's not doing any damage or doing any debuffs here, of course, because of Rozenciel. But if I manage to dispel things like his guard range or his magic defense buff, he'll feel a bit of pressure to put them back up using Sophia so that he can be sure that my tank busters cannot kill his tanks. So here I'm just waiting for my final moves so that I can use Yulia and Chris to attack in a row. Pinchas is a pretty experienced player, so he probably knows that I'm trying to do this, which is why he waits until the last move to move his Rozenciel. So because of that, I actually decide to just move my Chris out of the way, back where she can be guarded by Landius. Not only is this to make sure all my units can get guarded, but it's also because that Chris's one attack, Benevolence, has a very long cooldown, so I need to be very careful when to use it, because I'm probably only going to have one shot of using it. If I waste that shot and don't kill Listell, it means I probably don't have enough turns to charge it back up before the fog reaches me and kills me. So I engage with my Yulia, and you'll notice that huge magic defense he has on his Listell. 1100 magic defense on the Listell, and for Listell of course that converts to a high intelligence stat to counter pretty hard as well. So Pinchas makes an odd choice here. I thought he would have just healed, but maybe he had confidence that his Listell could take another hit from my Yulia. But at this point Listell has made 2 moves since Sophia cast Mass Resist, and because Sophia's magic defense buff from her coat cannot overwrite a Mass Resist buff, because it is a weaker one. By moving his Listell here, he actually drops his magic defense significantly, and combined with the half-dead soldiers that Listell already had, that allows Yulia to finish him off. So yeah, just a misplay on his part, I think. So just an interesting match where you get to see Listell being used as a magic tank. It's definitely an interesting build. And of course remember that if I didn't have Rozenciel here, she would be very, very dangerous to attack into, because Listell would just tag her talent onto Yulia every time she attacked. And there's a pretty good chance that Yulia would just end up killing herself.